of Vedana, context, feeling,
This
etc.
meeting is being recorded.
They are linked with every type of consciousness. So they arise every time whenever the consciousness arises. So all the consciousness accompanied by 7 universal mental factors. So it doesn't matter it is wholesome or unwholesome or beautiful or non-beautiful. There will be the accompanying mental factors of feeling, context, etc. The 7 will be present whenever the consciousness arises. So this is the growth. So 6 are linked appropriate way. Here, 6 occasional consciousness, you may remember them, Vitaka, initial application, Vichara, etc. So these 6 mental factors are links in the appropriate way. They associated with all types of consciousness, but not all consciousness. That's why they are linked in the appropriate way. Then Akusala, the 14 mental factors just link to the unwholesome consciousness, only unwholesome, not rootless consciousness and not beautiful consciousness. Then the last one also, separately, they associated with only beautiful factors, or only beautiful consciousness. So 2 groups can be understood. They are arising in each side of one is in unwholesome and one is in beautiful. Only the 13 Anya Samana Cetasika you have to consider. Especially, you need to focus on the arising of 6 occasional, they are called the Pakinaka Cetasika. This group make the difficulties in the Abhidhamma study. The others are very clear, 7 related to all types, and 14 related to only unwholesome, 12, and 25 related to only 59 or 91 beautiful consciousness. Okay, so let's see how they work. Then before we continue, and in the consciousness also, among the mental factors, as I mentioned that the occasional mental factors, Pakinaka Cetasika, that make you the difficulties. And among the 89 consciousness, the unwholesome consciousness, it is clear it's just related to the unwholesome mental factors. And for the Sorbana consciousness also, it related to only Sorbana mental factors, beautiful mental factors. It is clear that only 18 rootless consciousness will be in confusion. So let's review about the 18 rootless consciousness. So divided into respective group. So here, in the study of rootless consciousness, there are 3 groups. We have divided the 18 consciousness into 3 groups. The first group is the unwholesome resultant. And second group, wholesome rootless resultants. And the last group, the rootless functional group, 3 consciousness. So in this way, we study. But now, there's not enough information to continue in the combination of association. So we need to classify them according to their types. So here, 15 rootless consciousness. So Dripanja Vijnana are 10. So 2 sets of 5-fold sense consciousness. So as it is said, sense consciousness. So eye consciousness 2, ear consciousness 2, nose consciousness 2, tongue consciousness 2, and body consciousness 2. In this way, they become the two sets of five-fold sense consciousness. They are called Dvipancha Vijnana in Pali. We need to keep this name in our mind so that we can shorten them in the enumeration. Then Sampadichana, receiving consciousness, in both sides of unwholesome resordant and wholesome resordant, there are one receiving consciousness in each group. That is why receiving consciousness are two. And for the Santirana, in the unwholesome resordant consciousness, there are only one investigating consciousness, which is associated with equanimity feeling. But in the wholesome, rootless, resordant consciousness, 8. So there are two investigating consciousnesses. One is associated with joy and one is associated with equanimity. So in this way, Santirana are 3. All of them are resortants. So we can classify in this way, resortant consciousness 15 into 3 groups. This will be very helpful when you find the consciousness in the in which data, how many consciousness or how many mental factors arise together. So Abhidhamma Sangha is playing based on this classification. That's why we need to know. Then rootless functional 3 can be divided into 2, as the former twos are awachana. So Panchadwara Vachana, 5 doors, abiding consciousness, and Manodara Vachana, mind door, abiding consciousness. That is why awachana 2, and the remaining one is Hasitupara, mind producing consciousness. This is the reviewing rootless consciousness. 18. That is only group which make the difficult in Abhidhamma study in the combination and association. Then here, this is the classification by ways of feeling to the unwholesome, to the rootless mental factors. Because sometimes this classification appear in the enumeration of the mental factors and consciousness according to their feeling. So before you try to understand this combination method, you need to exercise in the Chitta chapter, the first chapter, enumeration of consciousness by different ways. So, for example, if you consider about the unwholesome consciousness, that divided into 3, greed-rooted, hatred-rooted, and delusion-rooted. Then, according to the feeling, 4 accompanied by joy, 6 accompanied by equanimity, and 2 accompanied by the displeasure feeling, and dosa mula. In this way, you need to practice, you need to exercise the Chitta chapter so that you can classify the consciousness by different ways. And after that, you can try to enumerate them. So in the rootless consciousness, so here, Sukha Sahagata, Dukkha Sahagata, Somanasa Sahagata, Ubekha Sahagata in this way. So in combination with the unwholesome consciousness, so among the 30 non-beautiful consciousness, so among the 30 asobana chitta, how many somanasa like this you need to exercise. That is the practice. Then we will make the exercise by the question later. Then here in the Somanasa Sahagata, in the unwholesome consciousness, so there are 4 Somanasa Sahagata. Here in rootless consciousness, 2. So altogether, in the non-beautiful consciousness, altogether 6 somanasa sahagata, or 6 consciousness are accompanied by joy. Then if you continue to the sense pure beautiful consciousness, so that is quite easy. It's divided into 2. So in each side, so somanasa 12 and ubeka sahagata 12. So counting together with these 12, it becomes 18 somanasa sahagata in sense pure consciousness. So in this way, you need to practice to expand in the consciousness. Then, okay, so this is the way how you can exercise in this Chitta chapter. So based on the understanding, former understanding, our later understanding will be easy or difficult. Okay, so the information, let's keep another information. So rootless consciousness is a Dvipancha Vijnana. So as you already know, Dvipancha Vijnana refers to 2 sets of 5-4 sense consciousness. So there are 10 in total. That is why except these 10, the 8 consciousness, we get only 8 consciousness. What are the 8 consciousness except Dvipancha Vijnana? So receiving 2, investigating 3, abutting 2, and smile producing 1. They are the remaining consciousness of rootless, except Dvipancha Vijnana. Okay, so keeping this information in the mind, that will be quite easy in the association method. Okay, here, Anya Samana for the ethically variable factors, there are 7 nayas. This number will show the naya. Then the group of universal factors, all 7 together, arise with the all types of consciousness. So this is 1 naya. We can note 7 arise together with every types of consciousness. So whenever consciousness arises, we need to count 7 in the associated mental factors. Then the second, so this is the Bhaginaka Chitasika, the occasional factors. So this information about the occasional mental factors, you need to keep some information in the mind as mentioned in the rootless consciousness, etc. So here the text mentioned Abhidhamma Sangha, and this is the comprehensive manual of Abhidhamma. It translated. So Vittaka initial application arise in 55 types of consciousness. So we will be shortened. We make shorten in the next enumeration here, just to know how to measure. So in all types of sense pure consciousness, except 2 sets of 5-4 sense consciousness, they refers to the Dvipancha Vijnana. So from the 54 sense pure consciousness, the 10 are exception. So there are 44 remaining. And 11 first jhana citta. So first jhana citta in the rupa vachara and arupa vachara. So arupa vachara, all the arupa vachara consciousness are related to the 5th jhana. So we can get the first jhana consciousness only in the 5 material sphere consciousness. So only 3. Then in the Lokuttara consciousness, the supramundane consciousness enlarged, there are 40 supramundane consciousness multiplied by the 5 jhana. So in this way, there are 8 first jhana. So 8 first jhana, 8 second jhana, etc. It becomes the 14 Lokuttara Citta. So taking Lokuttara Citta as 40, because the Vitaka is one of the fetters or jhana. So in this case, if the mental fetters is included under the jhana fetters, that mental fetter associated with 121 consciousness. And like the Vitaka, Vichara, etc. So if the mental fetter is not included under the jhana fetters, like a Dimokha, they are related to the 89 consciousness. So this is, we have to note this information. So all the mental fetters of jhana fetters, Chittasika in jhana fetters, they will be associated with 121. And the other fetters will be associated with 89 consciousness, in brief. So let's see. Here, 11 jhana fetters, because we count in large way. That is why altogether 55 consciousness we get. This is the way how Abhidhamma Sangha mentioned. But later, after this enumeration, according to the Abhidhamma Sangha, we will approach this enumeration from the order of the consciousness as mentioned in the first chapter, starting from the unwholesome, then rootless, the Kamavachara Sopana, then Rupavachara, Arupavachara, Lokutra. In this order, we will count, putting aside the exception consciousness. So, okay, so there are 55 consciousness associated with Vitaka, initial application. It means the only 55 consciousness can arise with Vitaka. Because we say the mental fetters arise together with consciousness. In the same way, consciousness arises together with mental fetters. So now we are listing the consciousness. These associated with, they can arise with the mental fetters of Vitaka. So they are 55. So among the 121, if we count the 55, there will be, the exception will be 66. So what are the 66? The Dvipanja Vijnana, the two sets of 546 consciousness, because they are exclusion here. That is why we count. Here, dissociated citta. So in two groups, there must be 121 or 89. So here, 55 are associated citta, and dissociated citta must be 66. So what are these 66? 10 Dvipanja Vijnana. Then here, the first jhana is taken in the associated consciousness, starting from the second jhana, 11, third jhana, 11, fourth jhana, 11, and here, fifth jhana are 23. Why did it become 23? So 3 in 5 material sphere and 12 in material sphere consciousness, then 8 Lokuttara. So here, in this 11, you just need to put 12 in material sphere, it becomes the 23 fifth jhana. They all are associated with the equanimity feeling. So Upekha Vedana. Then altogether 66 are dissociated citta. If you study in this way, that becomes quite easy. So for the vichara, sustained application, the 66 consciousness are associated consciousness, associated citta. So the remaining will be 55. Okay, what are the extra one. So Sawitaka 55, the former one, the 55, and second jhana citta. So they are exceeding consciousness from the Vitaka. So altogether 66. So if we count the dissociated citta, we need to remove the second jhana, because second jhana becomes the associated citta. Then altogether 55 are dissociated citta. Then for the Adhimokkha, it mentioned that the excluding the two set of 5, 4, 6, Vipanja Vijnana, and the consciousness accompanied by doubt. So Vichikiccha Sahagata, the 11 will be exclusion. That is why 78 are remaining. In this way, you can keep the information in short, but to understand, you need to extract them according to the order of consciousness, which consciousness can be associated, can associate with the Adhimokkha. We will do this after this. And Dvipancha Vijnana 10 and Vichikiccha Sahagata altogether 11 are dissociated citta. So if we add with the associated and dissociated, it becomes the 89 consciousness complete. Okay, so we already finished the 3 occasion of factor. To keep this information in your mind and longer is not so easy, but you need to try for the Abhidhamma understanding and also for the exam. So here, the Viriya energy, here for the explanation of the association mental factors of Viriya is quite complicated. Yeah, excluding the 5 things law avoiding this depends on 5 things law here. This is called the Panchadwara Vajana. Yeah, this exception. Then the 2 set of 5 full sense are Dripanja Vijnana. Receiving is Sampadicana 2. And investigating Sandirana 3. So excluding 16 consciousness, all are from the rootless. So what are the remaining? So only 2 will be remaining. So the only 2 mean the mind door at button, Manodara Vachana, and smile producing Hasitupada are remaining. These are dissociated 16. Then for the piti, the 70 will be remaining, the exception. That is why, including those accompanied by displeasure, this is dosa mula 2, and 55 equanimity. So as I said, you need to practice by way of by the classification by way of feeling. So here there are 55 consciousness accompanied by an equanimity feeling among the 89. So if you already exercise about that enumeration, that will be quite easy. So 2 group, Dosa Mula and Ubekha Sahagata. Then body consciousness. So here does not say all Dvipanja Vijnana, among the Dvipanja Vijnana, and only 2 associated with the bodily pleasure. They are called the bodily feeling. That is called the body consciousness. 2, and the 4th jhana consciousness. Because in the practice, if the meditator can overcome the piti, the jhana becomes the 4th jhana. That's why in case of 4th jhana, there is no more piti. So piti Chittasika cannot be associated with the 4th jhana chitta. So altogether, 17 consciousness are exception. So piti, as the piti is one of the 5 jhana factors, we need to count by way of large enumeration. That's 121. So the associated citta are 51. Here, to be shortened by the name, what are the 70, the exclusion? So dosa mula 2, upekha sagata 55, kaya vinyana 2, and chatutha jhana 11. So we will count 51 later. Then chanda. The chanda citasika desire arise with the 69 consciousness. So here also exception is shown. So rootless 18 and moha mula, so the delusion rooted consciousness 2 become 20. So if we substitute the 20 consciousness from 89, that the remaining are 69. So aheduka 18 and moha mula citta 20. And 2, it becomes 20 exception, dissociated citta. So this is the difficult part in the association naya, only the 6 consciousness. So to make clear, let's continue the enumeration according to the order of consciousness. So just remember, we will count them starting from the unwholesome, then rootless, sense sphere beautiful, then 5 material sphere, immaterial sphere, and lokuttara. So for the Vittaka, unwholesome 12, because the exception is only the Dripancha Vinyana, 2 set of 5-fold consciousness in the sense sphere. So in the sense sphere, there must be 44. What are these 44 consciousness? Here, unwholesome 12, rootless is a Dripancha Vinyana 8, and sense sphere beautiful or 24. It's become 44 sense sphere consciousness, and 11 first jhana. It's become 55. But this is the enumeration according to the order of the consciousness. So our teacher gives this method to make sure in the association method. So for the Vittaka, in your mind, it becomes clear all 12 unwholesome can associate with Vittaka. And only 8 in the rootless can associate with Vittaka. And all sense sphere beautiful can associate with Vittaka. And in the Mahakata and Lokuttara group, only the first jhana, 11, among the under the 67, this group contains the 67. Mahakata 27 and Lokuttara 14, because this is the jhana fetters. Among these 67, only 11 first jhana consciousness can associate with Vittaka. In this way, we count 55. Okay, for the Vichara, 66 consciousness associated with Vichara. So just you need to add the second jhana. Then third jhana, fourth jhana, fifth jhana will be exception. Yeah? And Dvapancha Vinyana, we already count. So 66 also can be understood in this way, in the order of consciousness. Then Adhimokkha. For the 78 consciousness associated with Adhimokkha. So here, 11 unwholesome citta, except consciousness accompanied by doubt, because only one is exception. So this contained in the Moha Mula 11, Moha Mula 2. So here, 11s are remaining, 11 consciousness except doubt. Then in the rootless, only 8 sense sphere or 24. So altogether, here the doubt is exception from previous group. That's why the 43. But in the explanation is not, not so simple to understand. But here 43 we can count according to the order. Then the 5 material sphere or immaterial sphere, or they are the Mahagata, sublime consciousness, 27. And all supramundane, because the Adhimokkha is not jhana fetters, it's related to only 89. So in this way, the 78 consciousness can be counted. Then among the Pakinaka, the 3, for the Viriya, 73 consciousness associated with Viriya, energy. So all 12 unwholesome, because the exception come only in the rootless. So rootless consciousness, only 2. As I said, the Manodara Vajana, mind dot button, and Hasitupara, mind producing. These only 2 can associate with energy among the 18 rootless consciousness. So all 24 sense sphere beautiful, and the others Mahagata and Lokuttara. So in this world, 38 in sense sphere and 35 in Mahagata Lokuttara, so 73. Then for the PT zest, so 51, as we said, the 51 consciousness. So here, sense sphere chitta accompanied by pleasure, as I mentioned, the Somanasa, 18 Somanasa Sahagata in the sense sphere consciousness of 54. There, in unwholesome, there are 4 and 2 in rootless. Then 12 in sense sphere beautiful. In this way, there are 18 consciousness accompanied by pleasure in the sense sphere consciousness 54. Then, so continue to the Mahagata and Lokuttara, because PT is under the enumeration of the jhana fetters that will be related to the 121. That is why first jhana become 11, second jhana, third jhana. So fourth jhana exception and the fifth jhana is equanimity. That is why all are exception here. So 51 consciousness can associate with PT. The chanda, for the chanda 69. So here, so chanda exception is moha mula. That is why 2 groups of unwholesome, lobha mula and dosa mula, altogether 10 unwholesome. Then all the rootless consciousness are exceptions, so we cannot count here. Then 24 sense sphere, altogether 34 sense sphere consciousness. Then the Mahagata and Lokuttara all 34 and 35. It becomes 69. Consciousness can associate with chanda, desire. So if you could exercise this association method in the Anya Samana, so especially in the Pakinaka, that is easy to continue the other group. So okay, it is time to study about the unwholesome mental fetters, the association of unwholesome mental fetters. So before we continue, let's review the slides we already finished in the unwholesome, in the Chittasika study. Here, we divided into 3 groups. In the first group, 4, Moha, Ahirika, Notaba, Otacha. They occurred in 12, so they were associated with all 12 consciousness. Then, in second group, so Lobha, Ditti, Mana. So among them, and they associate with Lobha Mula consciousness 8. but they will be different in deity and mana. Okay, later we will see. Then for the third group, the four mental dosa is Machariya Kukucha. So they occur only in Domanasa, dosa mula. So they will not occur with the other consciousness. Then for the third group, or for the fourth group, others. So Tinamita, they arise with the Dova Mula and Dosa Mula. So prompted altogether 5 consciousness. Then Vichikija associate with only Mohamula. Okay, this already studied. Let's continue. So there are 5 nayas, 5 ways in the association of unwholesome fetters. So according to the group we have divided in this Chittasika study, here the first group, 4 fetters occur in all 12 unwholesome. So if we say they arise with 12, mean the exception becomes 22, because there is no jhana fetter in unwholesome. That is why if 12 is associated chitta and dissociated chitta must be 77. So the 4 associated with all unwholesome, that is why they are called akusala sadharana. So this is the first. Then this is the nature how they can associate with all types of consciousness. Then number 2. So in number 2, according to the group, number 2, the 3 arise with the consciousness accompanied by greed. So greed rooted consciousness 8. So if they arise with 8, dissociated consciousness must be 81. So the 81, to count the 81 is not difficult, because the 8 consciousness is very obvious. It's only greed-rooted consciousness. So hatred-rooted, delusion-rooted, and the other rootless consciousness and the all beautiful consciousness becomes the 81. Then for the round view deity, only the 4 types of greed-rooted. So 4 types of greed-rooted associated with round view, that is called the deity gata sampayutta. Only 4 can arise with deity chittasika, round view, mental fetters of round view. So 85 become dissociated chitta. So whenever the other 85 consciousness arise, there is no round view. There's no round view. And so here for the mana, detigata vipayuta, the consciousness dissociated from round view. So 4 arise together and dissociated consciousness 85. Then for the third group, dosa chatuka. So dosa is machariya kukucha. So all 4 fetters arise with the dosa mula, 2 dosa mula, only 2 dosa mula. So the exception become 87. So the 87 also easy to understand, easy to count. So lava mula 2, moha mula 2, and rootless and all beautiful. Then here the information for the variable association is the hatred always among the 4. Dosa, hatred is always associated with 2 consciousness. So whenever 2 consciousness arise, the hatred accompany. But for the other 3, they occur variably and also depending on occasion. That is why they can be regarded as they arise separately, because they cannot come together, as they have the different nature. As we have mentioned, that is focusing on the other's property. Machariya focusing on one's own property. And kukucha and omission and submission. So what we had done and what we missed. So these three have the different objects, different focus. That is why the three mental factors of Isa, Macharia, Kukucha cannot arise at the same time. That is why they are arising separately. And when their respective nature is not contained in the dosa mula citta, they cannot arise. Only when their respective nature come together with the hatred, they can arise. That is why they are occasionally arising. So, if we count them, unwholesome dosa mula citta, how many mental factors arise dosa mula citta in the Sangahanaya? We were counting. At that time, we have to understand among the four dosa chatuka chitasika, the hatred always arise, and the others separately and occasionally. So we need to count in that way. So we will explain in that case. So in this case, we need to understand their nature. They are hatred always arise, and the other three separately and occasionally. Okay, so let's continue the rest three unwholesome factors. So Tina, Mita, and Vichikicha. Tina, Mita, they related to the five consciousness. So 84 become dissociated chitta. Then for the Vichikicha, it only arises with the Vichikicha Sahagata, which is included in the Moha Mula of unwholesome. So 88 become dissociated chitta. So in every chittasika, we have to make clear in clear understanding in our mind among the consciousness, what are associated consciousness, what are dissociated consciousness. And if you practice, you can keep all this information in your mind. You become expert in the Abhidhamma. Then, okay, so here the nature is mentioned that the factors, two factors of Tinamita make the chitta do and sluggish. So here, this information comes from the Comprehensive Manual of Abhidhamma. So because they make consciousness do and sluggish, they cannot arise with the asankharika, unprompted chitta, because they are naturally active. So already active. That is why they cannot make do and sluggish to become do and sluggish. Okay, so this is the association of unwholesome mental factors. So in this way, we can study the association method among the two of the Sampayoganaya, the association of mental factor, and Sangahanaya, the combination of mental factors. Then in this lesson, we cover the two association mental factors. So Anya Samana and Akusala finish. So in the part 2, we will continue to study about the beautiful association of beautiful mental factors and the other information related to the association method. Okay, today I'm going to stop here, my explanation, and we will continue to Q&A session.
Okay. Thank you, Bante. Today we do not have any questions from the students. So I think we have about half an hour left. May we seek permission from Bante to take questions from the floor?
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Yep. Brothers and sisters, if you have any questions, please raise hand, and then I will allow you to unmute and on your video to ask the questions. Okay. So, are there any questions? Okay, so I think today we do not have any questions from the floor. So thank you, Bante, for your teachings today. And may Bante lead us in making aspirations and sharing of merits, please.
Okay.
Okay.